The great chamber of the Galactic Council spire glowed with silver light. Billions of alien eyes across the galaxy watched the broadcast. Their screens filled with the image of a single human dot. Captain Aria Vance sat in the center, chained to a hubacked obsidian chair. Her wrists bore heavy manacles of Clithian steel metal said to hold even the strongest of warlords. Her uniform was torn, the red and blue of Earth's defense. Fleet dulled with ash and blood. The hall echoed with whispers in dozens of alien tongues. She is the last. 1. The humans are finished. Fragile. Foolish Deathworlders. From a raised dais. High General Korath of the Velen Dominion stepped forward. His reptilian crest shimmered in the artificial light, eyes glowing like molten gold. He raised a clawed hand, silencing the crowd. "Human," he hissed, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You were captured after the fall of your last fleet. Your Earth is a graveyard. Your colonies are dust. Tell us, why did you fight so hard? Why did your people refuse surrender when you had no chance?" Aria did not answer. Her dark eyes stared ahead, cold and unblinking. Korath's tail lashed the ground with impatience. "Speak." But Aria only tightened her grip around the small, crumpled scrap of paper in her bound hands. The cameras zoomed in. Aliens watching across the stars squinted at the strange human artifact. It was handwritten, uneven lines of ink scrawled in a script none of them understood. The Council's translation orbs flickered uncertainly, projecting garbled fragments, heart. Never gone. Confused murmurs turned to mocking laughter. Paper? That is their secret weapon. They fought for this? A dead species and their dead language? Pathetic. Yet one voice cut through the laughter. A thin, insectoid scholar, archivist Zixtar, leaned forward, mandibles trembling. His compound eyes widened. That word. It should not exist. It is. Forbidden. The laughter died instantly. The entire chamber turned toward him. Even Korath's claws froze, mid-swipe. What word? Another counselor demanded. Zixtar's antennae curled tightly. The word, he whispered, is hope. The council gasped as though struck. Billions of aliens across the galaxy murmured in fear. The word was ancient, older than their empires, whispered in myths about the humans. Myths they thought were long buried in Aria, chained and bleeding. Allowed herself the faintest smile. The council chambers erupted. The crystalline delegates of the Alari flickered with alarm, their shimmering forms vibrating in panic. The iron-skinned core slammed their clawed fists against the obsidian tables, demanding answers. General Korath snarled, "Explain this. Why do you hold that relic? Who gave you this word?" Aria slowly lifted her eyes. Her voice was hoarse from days of silence, but the steel in her tone cut sharper than any blade. "My brother," she said. With his last breath, the words rippled outward, carried by translation waves. Somewhere across the galaxy, a merchant dropped his wares in shock. 1,000 scholars checked their archives. The word hope was not supposed to exist outside of ancient human legends. A counselor with a crown of living flame hissed, "Eliza, human fabricates myths to delay judgment." Korath bared his teeth. "Your species is dust. Your fleets are shattered. We have conquered every world you claimed. Speak truth, human, or perish." But Aria only closed her fist around the note again. Her chains clinked as she leaned forward, eyes burning. "You think you have one?" she whispered. "But you don't even know where the war began." Far above the council chamber, in the cold reaches of space, a hidden signal pulsed outward. It was not one of the council's frequencies. It was older, human-built. It carried the same strange script as Aria's note, repeating endlessly in patterns no alien AI could translate, across the galaxy. Hidden, a race forgotten, buried, silent for centuries, stirred. In the wreckage of the Sol system, debris shifted. A shadow passed across the ruined Earth, blotting out the stars. The council scrambled. What is this signal? Where is it coming from? No one had an answer. Zixtar's voice trembled as he pieced the ancient human script together. It is not coordinates exactly. It is an awakening call, a summons. Awakening what? Korath demanded. The archivist's antenna curled in fear. He could not bring himself to say it. In the chamber, Aria finally looked up at the broadcast cameras. Meeting the gaze of billions across the stars, her lips moved slowly, deliberately, as though she wanted every being to hear the word. Hope. The chamber's lights flickered. Outside, the void itself shimmered. A shadow darker than space began to take Chopin's outline of something colossal. A ship. A human warship, larger than any vessel the Council had ever built. Rising from the void like a ghost from the grave, the aliens froze in terror. Aria's eyes glimmered with a strange light. She whispered, too low for the Council to hear, "They're coming." The concordant spire shook with the noise of 1,000 alien voices. Screens from across the galaxy streamed into the chamber. Entire civilizations were watching. The captured human soldier, Captain Aria Vance, sat motionless in her chains, still clutching the blood-stained note. The Alien Council had demanded answers. She had finally spoken one word: hope. The translation orb still glitched, as if the word itself was poison to the machines. On distant colony worlds, alien civilians turned to each other in confusion. Why did that word matter? Why did the Council look so afraid? General Korath snarled, his voice shaking as he pointed a claw at the insectoid archivist. Korath growled. "Tell us why this primitive word terrifies even you." Zix's mandibles clicked nervously. His voice was thin, but every microphone carried it to the farthest star. It is an ancient term from the First War. A human concept. Our ancestors recorded it, but swore never to speak it again, for they feared what it summoned. The chamber erupted again. Summoned? What superstition is this? A crystalline Ilari delegate pulsed. The humans are extinct. Their armies broken. Their planet ashes. Aria finally raised her head fully. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried with unnatural weight. Earth is not dead. We endure, and now you will see. The chamber lights flickered again. This time, it wasn't a glitch. Somewhere in the void, something vast had awoken. The Galactic Council's overseer, a being of living liquid light, slammed its staff. Silence. But silence did not come. The hall was a storm of panic. Species from every corner of the stars argued, shouted, screamed. The word is forbidden. Exile the human. No, destroy her. Destroy the note. If the stories are true, we are already doomed. Korath's voice thundered above them all. Enough. Bring the translation to me. The archivists obeyed, their claws scratching at glowing data slates as they decoded the human symbols. Finally, the results appeared in the air. The note was not a message. It was a set of numbers. Long strings of coordinates pulsing with a strange resonance. As though the ink itself hummed with power, the alien audience leaned forward. Coordinates. To what? Before Zix could answer, one of the Council's defense officers burst into the chamber, his scales pale with fear. My lords, we detect a surge in the dead system of Sol. Energy signatures. Impossible readings. Entire fleets of unknown design are powering up. While the Council panicked, Aria closed her eyes. Memories crashed into her like waves. She was 15 again, hiding in the ruins of New London, smoke choking the air. Her little brother Elias lay beside her, coughing blood from his lungs. The core bombardment had poisoned the skies. Don't give up, Elias had whispered, pressing a scrap of old paper into her hands. The ink was shaky, scrawled in English letters, Hope. His small hand had clenched hers once, then gone limp. Aria had screamed, but no one came. That note had been her only anchor through the decades of war. She had carried it through fire, through vacuum, through the capture that brought her here now, in front of the entire galaxy. She held it up like a weapon, on a world of icy seas. The Vare Collective, a hive mind, species detected the human signal. Their entire population stiffened, their minds filled with fragments of ancient terror. On the desert world of Rethka, where the Corps trained their warriors, 1,000 battle broods froze in the sand. They remembered the stories whispered by their ancestors, the Deathworld fleets that burned star systems in silence. Across the galaxy, species that had once mocked humanity began to tremble. Because if the humans had survived, then so had the enemy that once feared them. Korath leaned close to Aria, his breath hot and foul, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "What have you awakened, human? What are those ships?" Aria's lips curled in defiance. "What you feared most? What you thought you buried? Humanity's power." She closed her eyes and whispered something in her own tongue, not bothering to let the translators hear. To the cameras across the galaxy, it looked like a prayer. "Activate. All of you. For him." For us, in the far reaches of the galaxy, sensors caught the impossible. One ship emerged first. Its hull was blackened, scarred by ancient fire, yet it glowed with a faint blue light. It was massive, larger than any Velan dreadnought. Its design was alien even to humans. Built with technology hidden away since Earth's fall, the warship's name blazed across its hull in white letters, Unresolute. The broadcast showed it in chilling silence. No engines roared. No words were spoken. The ship simply existed, silent, patient, waiting. Every alien who saw it felt the same thing: fear. In the markets of the Avar hegemony, merchants whispered old stories. Tales of humans who fought on burning worlds long after their bodies should have failed. Of soldiers who bled out yet kept fighting for days. Of warships that vanished into the void, promising to return when the galaxy needed them most. The word hope had been erased from galactic records, but the myths had survived in hushed tones, bedtime warnings, and forbidden songs. Now the myths stood in the sky, metal and fire. The galaxy trembled. As the council argued, a second human ship lit up in the void, then a third, then a dozen. "Impossible," one alien gasped. "Those ships are from another age. They should have turned to dust long ago. They were built to endure," Zixtar whispered. "They are not ships. They are tombs. And they are waking." Aria's eyes gleamed with something no alien could understand. Her lips pressed against the note, as if it were sacred. "They thought Earth was gone," she murmured. But Earth remembered. A deep rumble shook the spire. The broadcast feed began to flicker. Every screen in the galaxy went black, then lit with a single word, written in the same human script as Aria's note: "Hope." The aliens gasped in terror, and in the darkness of space, hundreds of colossal human warships, sleek, battle-scarred, ancient yet alive, flared to life. Their cannons glowing with a cold, blue fire. The Deathworld Armada had returned. The stars went dark. Every screen across the galaxy flickered with the same impossible image: a shape, a shadow. A warship so massive it eclipsed the light of suns. Gasps and cries echoed through the council's spire. Civilian worlds watching the outcast broke into chaos, markets emptied. Temples were abandoned mid-prayer. Entire fleets were ordered to high alert. High General Korath stood frozen on the council dais, his reptilian claws tightening around his staff. His kind had once hunted humans for sport. Now the hunters felt hunted. "Impossible," whispered one Ilari elder, their crystalline body flickering with terror. That fleet was a myth, a ghost story to scare hatchlings. But the ghost was very, very real. In the void above Saul's ruins, hundreds of ancient human warships came alive. Their hulls black as obsidian, scarred from the fires that once consumed Earth, burned with cold blue light. Each vessel was larger than the Council's most advanced dreadnoughts. They rose in silence, engines humming at frequencies the alien sensors couldn't decode. The broadcast zoomed in on the lead ship, Unresolute. The letters, painted in ancient human script, burned brighter than any star, and still chained to the council chair. "Captain Aria," Vance smiled. Panic rippled through the council chamber. Delegates from the Clithian swarm demanded immediate retaliation. Their mandibles clicked in frenzy. Destroy the coordinates. Crush them before they spread. The Ilari emissary glowed pale white, a sign of horror. Do not provoke them. Do you not hear it? The signal, the rhythm. Through the broadcast, the strange human transmission continued, a low, steady beat. It echoed like a war drum, vibrating in the bones of every species that heard it. Some swore they could hear words forming between the pulses. Hope endures. Hope endures. Across the galaxy, fear became superstition. Civilizations that once mocked humans now whispered their name with dread. Korath leaned close to Aria, his golden eyes burning with rage. What have you done, human? He growled. What is this? Armada that dares appear in our skies? Those ships should not even exist. They are relics. Corpses in the dark? Aria's lips curled. Her voice was low, but sharp as a blade. They are not corpses. They are waiting. Waiting for us to call them? Waiting for this moment, she opened her fist again, revealing the note her brother's final message. The word hope burned faintly now, glowing with the same eerie light as the warships in the void. One of the younger counselors, feathers trembling, whispered that word. It was banned for a reason. It was the only thing the Harrowed feared. The chamber descended into chaos again, far away. The Un's Resolute shifted its massive guns. Each weapon was kilometers long, glowing like rivers of ice-blue fire. Alien fleet scrambled into formation, terrified but unwilling to show weakness. Target the human vessels, Korath ordered. Show the galaxy that their myths are nothing but dust. Hundreds of sleek Velen warships surged forward, weapons hot, forming a wall of firepower. But the Resolute did not fire. Instead, a voice broke through every channel, calm and steady. It was humanoid, deep and heavy with time. This is Admiral Jonas Vance, commanding officer of the United Nations Starship Resolute. By the oath of the fallen, by the blood of Earth, we have returned. Aria's eyes filled with tears. It was him, her brother's voice. The galaxy had declared him dead 2 centuries ago. But he was alive. On the far side of the chamber, the Avar hegemony's ruler, cloaked in golden armor, rose to his feet. This is impossible. Humans cannot survive in deep cryostasis for 2 centuries. Their biology is too fragile, their minds too weak. But the evidence hovered above them in holographic clarity, ships older than most empires, gleaming with forgotten technology, aligning into a vast formation. The Council's overseer demanded, Admiral Vance, explain your presence. How does your fleet exist? The human voice came again. Calm, steady, cold, because humanity was forged on a death world. We are not fragile. We are patient. We endure. And we never forget. The words struck the chamber like thunder. Alien faces twisted in fear. The myth was breathing in front of them. Inside the chamber, Aria's heart pounded. She could hear her brother's voice not only through the speakers, but deep inside her mind. The note in her hand pulsed in time with the fleet's signal. She realized that Truth Elias's final message was more than a word of comfort. It was a key, a trigger, a code written in ink and blood that could awaken the fleet. Her brother had known. He had died knowing humanity would rise again. A guard reached for the paper. Aria's eyes flashed. You touch this? She said coldly. And you'll see what happens when a human stops hoping. The guard froze, his claws trembling. He stepped back. In orbit, the Resolute fired. A single beam of blinding blue light tore across the void. It cut through 3 Velen battleships as if they were paper. Their cores flared, then died in silence, leaving only drifting wreckage. Billions of aliens watching screamed. Their proud fleets built over centuries of dominance were powerless against a single resurrected human ship. But the Resolute was not alone. Dozens of other ships powered up, their engines igniting like stars being born. The ancient Deathworld Armada formed ranks, their blackened hulls aligning with perfect precision, as if they had been waiting for this command since Earth's fall. In the council chamber, the overseer's voice trembled. Admiral Vance. What do you want? On the screen, Jonas Vance appeared, his face scarred, his eyes burning with the same fire as his sister's. He looked older, harder, but unmistakably human. He raised the same piece of paper Aria held. Identical. The word hope glowed in his hand. The entire galaxy gasped in unison. 2 notes. 2 signals. 2 keys. And then, far beyond the Resolute, another shadow moved in the void. Something even larger. Not human. Not alien. The stars bent around it. The Harrowed had heard the call. The void trembled from the shattered ruins of Earth's system. The UN's Resolute drifted into the light. The warship was colossal, its armored hull still scarred by plasma burns. Its once proud flags now etched in glowing blue along its sides. For a moment, the galaxy stared in silence. Then the silence broke. Thousands of alien warships surged forward, forming an iron wall of energy cannons. Missiles armed, plasma lances crackled, targeting computers screamed, "Fire!" roared High General Quarith from the council dais, his golden eyes blazing with fury. Show the galaxy these humans are nothing but ghosts clinging to relics. The council broadcast split its view. One screen on the prisoner, Captain Aria Vance, still bound in her obsidian chair. Another on the Resolute, its massive silhouette looming against the light of Sol's broken sun, lasers and plasma. Torpedoes streaked toward the ancient ship, thousands of them. Enough fire to melt a moon. The galaxy leaned forward, waiting to see the human vessel ripped apart. But the Resolute did not break. The barrage vanished. Beams of light disappeared into nothingness, swallowed by a shimmering field that pulsed with the same eerie glow as the note clutched in Aria's hand. The alien armada watched their deadliest weapons dissolve like sparks in a storm. A voice rolled across every channel.com, human, powerful. This is Admiral Jonas, Vance of the United Nations Starship Resolute. We have heard your laughter. We have heard your lies. Humanity has not perished. Humanity endures. The aliens screamed. The council spire shook as thousands of voices clashed. This cannot be, cried the Alari envoy, their crystalline body vibrating so violently cracks began to appear. The Deathworld Fleet was a story, shouted a Quar warlord, though his mandibles trembled with fear. They have returned, whispered Zixstar, the insectoid archivist, his voice almost breaking. The humans swore they would wait in silence, in the shadows, until the galaxy faced its darkest hour. That note those coordinates sit was never meant for us. It was meant for them. Quarith turned on Aria, slamming his staff against the floor with a deafening crack. If your brother lives, if these ships are real, then your defiance will cost you dearly. Tell us now, why should we not destroy you all before this? Armada Awakens? Aria raised her head, her face streaked with dried blood, her eyes fierce. Because you can't. You tried before. You failed. And now it is too late. In the depths of the dead soul system, the black giants stirred. One by one, warships the size of cities came alive. Their hulls glowed with ancient technology, engines burning with impossible light. Inside the Resolute, Admiral Jonas Vance stood on the command deck. His crewmen and women in faded uniforms, faces pale from long cryo-sleep, moved with calm precision. Their voices carried no fear. Admiral, reactor output is stable, defensive grids online, all systems responding after 2. Centuries. Jonas raised his hand. Signal the fleet. Formation Aegis. Prepare for contact. The other human ships responded in silence, shifting into a vast crescent formation. Their hulls aligned like the bones of a titan, weapons humming, shields glowing. The aliens who had conquered hundreds of worlds suddenly looked very small. Back in the council chamber, panic turned to accusation. You knew? Shouted the feathered Ilari, pointing at Quarith. Your dominion fought the humans. You should have destroyed them fully. Quarith hissed. We did. We burned their world to ash, We scoured their colonies. They were finished. I watched them die. Zixtar's mandibles clicked. And yet, here they are. Their myth made flesh. You failed to kill them, and now we all pay the price. Aria finally spoke again, her voice cold. You thought you ended us. You don't understand. You never understood. We don't fight because we think we can win. We fight because we refuse to surrender. That is what hope means. The word echoed again. Hope. Every alien shivered. The Velen fleet unleashed another wave of fire. Thousands of torpedoes, ion cannons, plasma lances. The void itself lit up with destruction. But the Resolute's shields shimmered brighter, bending the laws of physics. The energy of the attack bent, twisted, and then reversed. The entire council gasped as the Valen's own weapons turned back upon them. Their ships were ripped apart by their own fire. Jonas Vance's face appeared again on the galactic broadcast. His eyes, scarred but unbroken, stared directly at the alien leaders. You burned our homeworld, he said. You enslaved our people. You thought you could erase us. He raised the glowing note. Identical to the one in Aria's hand? You were wrong. Across the stars. The reaction split civilizations apart. On the Avar hegemony's desert world, soldiers who once mocked humanity dropped to their knees, chanting the forbidden word. Hope. On the icy oceans of the Ver Collective, entire hive minds trembled, their collective voice whispering fear into the void. On the mineral worlds of the core, warlords screamed at their fleets to fight harder, even as reports poured in of entire armadas being erased by the awakening human ships. The galaxy had laughed at humanity. Now they watched with terror. The Overseer turned its glowing face toward Aria. You knew this would happen, it said. Voice trembling like glass about to shatter. Aria met its gaze, her voice steady. I told you. As long as the heart beats, humanity fights. And somewhere, in the void, the heart of Earth never stopped beating. The aliens recoiled. But before they could reply, the spire's massive screens flickered again. The image of Jonas Vance filled the chamber. His eyes fixed on Aria, and for the first time, her mask of steel cracked. Aria, he said. His voice was low, but it carried across the stars. Little sister. You held the line. Aria's breath caught. The chains on her wrists rattled as she struggled to stand. Tears welled in her eyes, but her smile was fierce. I told them, she whispered. I told them you'd come. The chamber was deathly silent. Every alien, every counselor, every citizen across the galaxy leaned closer to the screens. Jonas lifted his hand, and behind him, the Deathworld Armada shifted hundreds of colossal ships, their cannons glowing blue. But then another signal blared across the galaxy, a deeper, darker pulse. The war drums of humanity fell silent as a new rhythm thundered from the edge of the cosmos. Sensors screamed warnings. Space itself seemed to twist, and then it appeared. A monstrosity of metal and flesh, a vessel larger than even the Resolute, its body fused with living tendrils, its eyes burning like dying stars. The Harrowed had returned. The galaxy realized the truth in an instant. The humans hadn't come to conquer them. They had come because the real enemy was already here. Aria closed her eyes around the glowing note. Her voice was barely a whisper. They've come for all of us. The Concordant spire was trembling, not from attack, but from the sound of millions of voices screaming across the galaxy. Every monitor in the chamber still glowed with the same terrifying sight. The colossal silhouette of the Un's Resolute standing defiant against 1,000 alien warships, and in the shadow of Sol's shattered sun, dozens more human dreadnoughts continued to awaken, one by one. Like ancient titans rising from their graves, the aliens could not look away. Their sensors confirmed the impossible. These ships were real, not myths, not illusions. Real metal, real guns, real power, and then came the word broadcast in every tongue, carved across the stars by ancient human code. Hope. For the first 5 minutes of the broadcast, silence held the chamber. The aliens, who once mocked humanity as fragile, now sat frozen. Their eyes glowed with fear. Their voices cracked with disbelief. "Hope," the Alari emissary whispered, trembling like shards of glass about to shatter. "The word of the ancients? The promise of the Deathworlders." General Korath slammed his clawed fist into the council table. The sound echoed like thunder. "Lies," he roared, though even he did not sound convinced. "One ship does not make a fleet. Humanity is dead, finished, forgotten." But on the screens a second human warship ignited, then a third, then 10 more, each one larger, darker, and more menacing than the last. And still, Captain Aria Vance sat in chains, silent. The glowing note clenched in her bloody hand. Panic gave way to anger. The Zell Hierophant, cloaked in golden fire, pointed a burning arm toward the humans. "This is blasphemy. The word of hope is forbidden for a reason. Our ancestors fought the Deathworlders once before. Their madness nearly tore the galaxy apart. We cannot allow their return." The Avar hegemon, towering and armored in plates of living metal, slammed his staff to the floor. "You would call it blasphemy? I call it salvation. Look at your fleets, General Korath. Your proud warships melted by their own fire. That is no myth. That is power. Power we may need." The chamber split in two. Half the delegates shouted for the humans' immediate execution, demanding the fleet be destroyed before it fully awoke. The other half began whispering of alliances, of protection, of survival, for the first time in centuries. The mighty council was divided. Korath stalked toward Aria. His golden armor scraping against the obsidian floor, he loomed over her, his voice low and venomous. "What is this note you clutch? Why does it command your war machines?" Aria raised her head. Her face was pale, her lips cracked, but her eyes burned like the engines of the Resolute. "This note," she whispered, "was written by a dying boy on Earth's last day. My brother, Elias. He wrote one word with his final strength." Her hand opened. The camera zoomed in. The glowing word pulsed. "Hope." It was not just a word, Aria continued, her voice breaking. It was a key. The last command. A message to the fleets we hid in the dark. When we said hope, we meant wake up, rise again, return. The aliens froze. They had underestimated humanity for centuries. They thought the humans fought blindly, clinging to desperation. They never imagined it was strategy. The Resolute broadcast its voice again. Admiral Jonas Vance speaking with unshakable calm. 2 centuries we waited, buried in the shadows of Sol, watching, listening, waiting for the word. On the screen, the camera panned across the growing fleet. Massive warships drifted into formation, their hulls etched with battle scars from wars long past. City-sized carriers, serpentine dreadnoughts, and colossal orbital fortresses aligned in silence. Their glowing cannons humming with energy no alien could measure. The Velen fleet launched another attack, pouring fire into the void. But once again, the humans' shields bent reality itself. The plasma beams curved back, slicing through their own cruisers. Wreckage floated lifeless through the stars. "Impossible," shouted Korath, his crest flaring with fury. "This is a trick, an illusion." Yet deep in his chest, even Korath felt it. That cold pulse. That ancient drumbeat. On a lush jungle moon, the Phyrexian clan Sephamas, for their ruthless raids, watched the broadcast in silence. One clan leader dropped his weapon, trembling in the dark tunnels of the Vare Collective. The hive mind whispered across its oceans, "The Deathworlders live. The tide turns. The Harrowed will come." Civilian networks across the stars exploded with fear and hope. Billions of voices cried out, some begging their leaders to destroy the humans before it was too late. Others demanding alliances, praying for the return of Earth's strength, the galaxy. Once united in mocking humanity, was now split by terror. Aria felt the note pulse in her hand. Heat radiated from it, searing her skin. She winced, but did not let go. Jonas's voice thundered again through the council chamber. Sister, you have carried our signal. You have done well. But now you must choose. Will you guide them, or will you watch them fall? The aliens stared in shock. He knows her name, whispered one. He speaks to her as kin. Aria stood, chains grinding against the floor. Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded. I will not bow. Not to you. Not to the Harrowed, and not to fear. Suddenly, the broadcast cut to the outer edges of the galaxy. A dark shape loomed beyond the human fleet. It was not metal. It was alive. A creature the size of a moon, its body a grotesque mix of armor and flesh, eyes burning like collapsing stars. Tendrils of energy reached outward, twisting the very fabric of space. The council chamber erupted again, the Harrowed. They've returned. This cannot be. Korith's voice, usually so strong, cracked with fear. We killed them. We killed them all. Zixtar's mandibles clicked softly. No, you only delayed them. Humanity warned us. You mocked them. And now, the storm returns. On the screen, the Unresolute turned toward the monstrous Harrowed Leviathan. Its cannons glowed brighter, humming with the force of 1,000 storms. Admiral Jonas Vance raised his hand. All ships ready, the Aegis protocol. The alien counselors leaned forward. Their faces pale with fear. In the chamber, Aria lifted the burning note. The word hope glowed so bright it lit her face like fire. The galaxy held its breath, and then on every screen the stars vanished. The space behind the human fleet folded inward. As if reality itself were being torn apart, something vast was waking in the dark. The concordant spire was collapsing into chaos. Alarms wailed across the great chamber. Silver walls flickering red as emergency shields activated. The galaxy's most powerful leaders shouted over each other, their fear echoing louder than any weapon fire. On every screen, billions of eyes stared at the impossible sight, the Deathworld Armada awakening. One warship after another, rising from the void and beyond them. Something worse. The monstrous shadow of the Harrowed Leviathan loomed like a moving eclipse, its tendrils unraveling stars into dust. The broadcast shook with static. The voice of Admiral Jonas Vance cut through the chaos, heavy and calm. Council of the Stars. We came not for vengeance. We came because you are no longer laughing. You are screaming. The Harrowed have returned, and only humanity can stop them. The alien counselors froze. Those same beings who had mocked humans as fragile, primitive, and doomed now leaned forward with wide eyes. Their empires had faced wars, but never annihilation. Humanity had. Humanity had survived it. The overseer of the council, a towering figure of shifting light, raised its shimmering staff. You ask us to trust you, it said. But how can we? You were our enemy. We nearly destroyed you. And now you return with weapons that defy the laws of physics. Aria, still bound in her obsidian chair, lifted the glowing note her brother had written. The single word hope shone brighter now, reflecting in every alien's fearful eyes. You don't have to trust us, she said. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. You just have to survive long enough to see why we fight. The galaxy held its breath. The council chamber divided into two furious halves. On one side, the Quar warlords roared for blood. Destroy the humans now. Crush their armada before it grows. Their voices were sharp and metallic, mandibles clacking like blades. On the other side, the Ilaria envoys shimmered in shades of blue and silver. Fools! If you strike them, you will die. If you listen, perhaps you will live. The Ver Collective spoke as a chorus of 1,000 minds. The Harrowed consume all. We have seen their shadows before. If the Deathworlders endured, then perhaps they are our only shield. Korith's golden eyes burned with fury. You would kneel to them? To the savages who once burned our fleets? You would trust monsters from a dead rock? Aria's head snapped toward him. Monsters? Her voice was a low growl. You call us monsters because we refuse to kneel to you. You thought Earth's fire meant weakness? You were wrong. We were forged in it. Her words cut deep. Even bound, even beaten, she commanded the room. On the screen above, Jonas Vance spoke again. His voice was steady, every syllable filled with weight. You have a choice. Stand with us, or stand aside. But know this: if you stand against us, you will fall before the Harrowed, just as you made us fall. The alien delegates recoiled. None of them missed the cold steel in his voice. He was not begging. He was not negotiating. He was declaring Zixtar. Trembling, raised his thin insectoid arms. Admiral Vance, if this is true, if the Harrowed truly live, then every world, every species, every council must stand together, even humans. But the Velen general spat, his tail slamming the floor. This is a trick. The humans built weapons in secret. They summon ancient machines and call it destiny. I say we end them before it is too late. The guards pulled at Aria's chains, dragging her back as if she were the danger, not the monstrosity devouring suns at the edge of the galaxy. Her wrists bled, but as the note in her hand pulsed with blue fire, the chains began to glow. Metal hissed. Cracks spread across the shackles. Every alien watched as the unbreakable. Clithian steel began to melt in her hands. Aria raised her eyes, voice shaking but powerful. You don't understand. Those ships out there, they are not your enemy. They are humanity's promise, a promise sealed with blood. If you kill me, you kill your only chance to survive. The Overseer hesitated. The Council was not used to fear. Yet the screens above them showed the harrowed Leviathan stretching its tendrils toward the human fleet, warping space with every movement. For the first time in galactic history, the Council did not know what to do. Amid the chaos, a voice rang out. We will stand with the humans. All eyes turned. The Avar Hegemona, towering warrior in golden armor, stood tall, his voice booming. Our warbroods will fight beside the Deathworlders. Better to bleed with them than to die screaming alone. The council chamber shook again, not from weapons, but from the uproar of disbelief. You would betray us for them, Korath roared. I would save my people, the Hegemon shot back, and you should do the same. On the screens, the harrowed Leviathan opened its maw. A swirling core of black light formed inside, pulling stars into its mouth. Entire ships vanished like dust. The Resolute shifted, engines glowing brighter, forming a barrier between the monster and the council fleets. Shields to maximum, Jonas Vance ordered. His officers obeyed without hesitation, faces calm, voices steady. They had slept for 2 centuries, but their purpose had not faded. Aria's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the note burning her skin. The word hope was no longer just ink, it was alive. The Overseer turned to the council. We must decide now. Do we destroy the humans, or do we fight beside them? The chamber split again. Some screamed for war. Others whispered for alliance. Fear dripped from every word. Aria raised her voice, louder than all of them. You don't have time to argue. Every second you waste, the harrowed grows stronger. My people knew this day would come. That's why we built the Armada. That's why we left the note. We fight for hope, because hope is the only weapon they cannot kill. The Resolute's cannons reached full power, glowing so brightly they turned night into day across the galaxy. On the edge of the void, the harrowed Leviathan's mouth opened wider, a black hole forming at its core, pulling entire fleets into nothingness. Jonas Vance's voice roared across every channel. Choose now. Stand with humanity, or be consumed. The screens flickered. The last image burned into every watching eye was the Deathworld Armada locking its weapons on the Harrowed, preparing for a strike that could decide the fate of the galaxy. Aria's chains shattered. The note blazed in her hand like a star. She looked directly at the council and said one word: decide. The chamber fell silent. The galaxy hung on the edge of war. The galaxy watched in silence. The Uns Resolute hung in the void like a black monument to a forgotten war. Around it, Hundreds of human warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, the terriers burned with blue fire as their ancient engines came alive. The alien fleets that had once mocked humanity now hovered in terrified disarray, their weapons trembling, their commanders shouting orders they no longer believed in, and then the stars began to move. The vast harrowed Leviathan unfurled its tendrils, each as wide as a city. It opened its maw, a void swirling with black energy, and swallowed an entire Velen battle group in one motion. Dozens of ships blinked out of existence, consumed by the darkness. The council chamber exploded in panic. Screams filled the hall. Leaders of once-proud empires clutched their thrones in terror. The broadcast carried their fear to billions across the galaxy. On the central screen, Admiral Jonas Vance stood firm aboard the Resolute. His scarred face was calm, his voice steady. "Do you see now? This is the enemy that destroyed Earth, not you. Not your wars. The Harrowed, they have returned. And humanity has not come to beg for mercy. We have come to fight." The council chamber went dead silent. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's rulers realized they were no longer in control. The camera zoomed in on the Leviathan. Its body writhed with living metal, its armor pulsing like flesh. Eyes opened across its surface, thousands of them glowing with cold white light. A voice thundered across the stars. Not sound, but thought. "We return. We feast." You cannot hide behind your myths. Every alien species shuddered. The Harrowed were not a story. They were real. And they were hungrier than ever. The Velen fleet fired again in desperation. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked across the void only to vanish into the black hole that pulsed in the Leviathan's chest. The monster drank the energy like water. Then it screamed. Not a roar, not a voice, something deeper. A sound that rattled planets, cracked moons, and made entire civilizations weep without knowing why. "Admiral," cried one of Jonas's officers. "Their energy signature is impossible. Every weapon we know is being swallowed. Their mass. It's growing." Jonas's scarred face did not waver. "Then we don't give them what they want." The Resolute shifted course, its hull glowing with cold light. The other human ships mirrored the maneuver with perfect coordination. Aria, still in chains within the council chamber, felt the note pulse again. It was burning her skin, but she held it tightly. She could feel her brother's presence in every beat of that word. Hope. 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 The overseer's shimmering form flickered with panic. "We must combine our fleets. Humanity alone cannot stop this. We must stand together." But Korath slammed his clawed fist down. "I will never fight beside the scourge of Earth. They are killers, monsters, deathworlders." The Avar hegemon turned, his golden armor blazing under the chamber lights. "And what would you have us do, General?" "Surrender. The Harrowed do not enslave. They consume. Every world. Every people. Fight beside the humans, or die alone." The chamber fractured further. Some shouted for alliance, others for annihilation. The galaxy teetered on the edge of civil war, while the real enemy crept closer with every heartbeat. Aria's chains, weakened by the glowing note, cracked again. The guards tried to restrain her, but the energy pulsing through her body grew hotter, brighter. Her voice carried across the chamber, amplified by unseen forces. "You call us fragile. You call us weak. And yet you cannot even speak the word that terrifies you. Hope. That is what we are. That is what you fear." The note in her hand burned like a star, its light spilling across the chamber. Some aliens shielded their eyes. Others dropped to their knees. Aria took a step forward, the chains shattered, falling to the floor in molten shards. In the void, the Leviathan unleashed its power. The black hole at its core pulsed, sending a wave of gravity that tore through the Velen fleet. Ships bent like paper, snapping in half, their crews silenced in an instant. Jonas's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships, prepare the Aegis protocol. We stand here. We hold this line. The Resolute's colossal cannons glowed white-blue, brighter than the dying sun behind it. The human fleet shifted into a shield wall, their hulls overlapping, forming a fortress in space. Alien commanders watching the broadcast realized the truth. The humans were not protecting themselves. They were protecting everyone else. Back in the chamber, the Ilari emissary rose. Their crystal bodies shimmered with desperate light. General Korath, look at the screens. Your fleets are ash. The Harrowed will consume us all. The humans stand between us and extinction. We have no choice. Korath growled, his claws digging into the council table. His pride battled with his fear. Aria stepped forward, her hands finally free, the note glowing like a star in her palm. She looked at every counselor, every camera, every watching world. You don't have to love us. You don't even have to like us. But if you want to live, if you want your children to see another sunrise, you will fight with us. Her voice shook with fury and grief. My brother died writing this word, and I will burn every star in this galaxy before I let his sacrifice mean nothing. The broadcast screens flickered again. The image of the Resolute filled the chamber. Admiral Jonas Vance raised his hand, the second glowing note burning in his palm. All ships, he said, his voice a thunderclap across the stars. Prepare to open the gate. The galaxy froze, and then, behind the human armada, space itself cracked open, a blinding tear-split reality, stretching across half the system. Light poured out like a newborn star, painting every warship in silver fire. The Harrowed Leviathan recoiled, its tendrils curling in rage. Aria looked up at the screen, her lips trembling as she whispered the word once more. Hope. The tear widened. Something vast began to emerge. Not a ship, not a planet. Something greater. The galaxy held its breath. On every world, every system, billions of aliens froze as the screens across their cities turned white. The image of the Resolute was gone, replaced by a blinding tear in space itself. A wound in reality. From the rift spilled light unlike any sun, light that seemed to pierce straight into the soul. It wasn't natural starlight. It was controlled, forged. The Harrowed Leviathan, a creature larger than moons, recoiled for the first time. Its tendrils thrashed, lashing at the void like whips of living lightning. Planets trembled in their orbits. Alien fleets scattered in terror. In the council chamber, every delegate leaned forward, faces twisted with fear and awe. Even General Koratha, once proud conqueror of Earth, stood silent, his golden eyes reflecting the silver blaze. And then, through the tear, something impossibly massive began to emerge. At first it was just a shadow, a curved edge rimmed with blue fire. Then, like a god rising from the abyss, the full form of a world-sized human warship revealed itself. It was not a vessel. It was a fortress, a floating continent of black steel, bristling with towers that were not towers, but weapons larger than cities. The hull bore the ancient insignia of Earth, a blue and white sphere, a green branch, and words in a language the galaxy thought long dead. The Council's translators struggled, then projected the meaning. United Nations Star Fortress, Aegis Prime, Admiral Jonas. Don stood tall on the bridge of the Resolute. His face was lit by the glow of the rift, the impossible light of the Aegis Prime washing over his scarred features. This is what you tried to bury, he said, a voice resonating across every broadcast channel. This is what my brother died for. The heart of Earth lives within Aegis, and it will burn brighter than any star. The alien counselors could only stare. The Avar hegemon whispered, a fortress the size of a world. Hidden for 2 centuries? How? Jonas's voice was calm, cold, unstoppable. While you squabbled over our ashes, we built. While you mocked us, we endured. While you forgot us, we prepared. This is not vengeance. This is survival. The Leviathan roared again, swallowing more ships. The void twisted, a storm of black lightning tearing apart space itself in the council chamber. Aria Vance still held her brother's note. It now burned like molten fire, the letters of hope glowing so brightly they seared her skin. But she did not let go. She pressed it against her chest, and the chains that had bound her arms shattered into ash. Gasps echoed around her. The guards recoiled, weapons raised. But the Overseer raised its glowing staff to hold them back. "Do not touch her," the Overseer commanded, its voice trembling. "She is bound to the key." Aria stood tall, shoulders straight despite her wounds. She looked up at her brother on the screen. "Jonas," she whispered, "what do I do?" Jonas's scarred face softened for a moment. "Read it, Aria. Say the word. Say it for all of us." Korath slammed his staff to the floor, his voice shaking with rage. "This is madness. If the Harrowed destroy us, it will be because we allowed humans to live." The Alari emissary pulsed with blinding light. "No, General. If we die, it will be because we forgot." They remembered. Across the chamber, arguments turned into chaos. Some shouted for alliance, others demanded war. Civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia suddenly looked like frightened children. Aria raised the note high, her voice rising above the chaos. "Decide. Will you cling to your fear, or will you fight with us?" In the void, the Aegis Prime opened its vast hangars. From within poured smaller ships, sleek, sharp, each one glowing with the same deadly light. Thousands of them formed up, moving with precision and silence. The harrowed Leviathan surged forward, its tendrils lashing at the human fleet. Entire cruisers were torn apart in an instant, their wreckage dragged screaming into the black hole at the creature's core, but the Resolute held firm. Its shields blazed like a star, refusing to break. Jonas raised his hand. "Fire," the Aegis Prime responded. A beam of pure energy, white-blue and blinding, shot from the fortress. It tore through space, cutting across the Leviathan's hide. The creature howled, its metallic flesh boiling, its tendrils burning, for the first time in living memory. The Harrowed bled. On a distant world, a council of scholars fell silent, their ancient records echoing in their minds. The humans had once promised, "When hope is spoken, we will return with fire to guard the stars." On the jungle moon of the Threxians, warriors screamed their battle cries, raising their blades toward the sky. "Fight with the Deathworlders." On the frozen oceans of the Vare, entire hive minds sang a single word across their telepathic network: hope. For the first time in history, the galaxy saw something greater than fear, but the Harrowed did not retreat. The Leviathan pulled back, its body splitting open to reveal more void light. From behind it, others emerged. Vast shapes, dozens, hundreds, each larger than the last. Each one alive, ancient, and hungry. The council chamber shook as the Overseer whispered, "There are more, many more." Korath collapsed into his seat, his golden crest dulling with despair. "We are finished." "No," Aria said sharply. She raised the glowing note, her voice rising. "You are finished if you keep believing that. But humanity was born to fight the impossible." Her words cut through the silence. On the Resolute's bridge, Jonas looked into the camera. "You wanted to know why we fought? Why we never surrendered? This is why. Because even when our world burned, even when our children died, even when our skies turned black, we believed." The fleet behind him hummed, cannons glowing brighter. The Aegis Prime expanded its wings of light, its engines shaking the stars. "Hope is not a weakness," Jonas said. "It is our weapon. It is what the Harrowed cannot consume, and we will share it with all who stand with us." The Avar hegemon stepped forward in the council chamber, slamming his staff down. "Then we stand with you, human. We fight with you." One by one, other voices joined. The Alari flickered in agreement. The Vare chorus whispered their support. Even a few of the proud, core warlords lowered their heads. The galaxy was beginning to turn, but the stars were no longer stars. On the screens, the void was filled with monstrous shapes, an ocean of harrowed titans. their living metal bodies blotting out light itself. Their voices shook every mind across the galaxy. We devoured Earth. We will devour you. Your hope is nothing. The Resolute shuddered as the first wave of harrowed fire slammed into its shields. The crew held fast, faces pale but unbroken. Admiral Jonas gripped the railing, his voice a roar across the stars. All ships activate the Aegis protocol. In the council chamber, Aria raised the burning note. The single word hope exploded in light, flooding the chamber, flooding the galaxy, reaching every corner of space. Billions of aliens fell silent, bathed in its glow, and then from the heart of the rift, something even larger than the Aegis Prime began to emerge. A colossal silhouette, its wings stretching across half the system, its presence shaking the stars themselves. Aria gasped, eyes wide. No, it can't be. Jonas's voice broke through, filled with awe. The last creation of Earth, the Titan of Hope, has awoken. The screen turned white. The galaxy screamed.